Hey, HTDA, and I'm really excited because today I'm going to be able to show you a new factory building game from an indie developer called Builderment. Now, this game is very similar to Factorio in a lot of good ways, but perhaps a little bit more casual, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. It has a lot of nice quality of life features that I would love to see in other factory games as well, and the gameplay is really smooth and intuitive, so I'm really looking forward to exploring this game with you guys. Now, I am playing a preview version that was supplied to me by the developer, so a few things might change between now and the end of October when this game will actually be released. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to wishlist it so you can grab it when it comes out. Now, let's dive in. Let's jump into a world and build a factory, and this zooming in and out thing is really nice. You actually start out on a pretty big island that you can fill up, so we have our work cut out for us, but initially what we need is this little forest over here. Let me actually see where's everything else. Yeah, so let's build towards this inner area initially. So we have about 4 resources very close by. We're going to need this coal as well, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Okay, so as with most of these factory building games, it started out really easy. As you can see, we only have one resource, which is money. And if we go to the building menu, you can see everything actually only costs money, or credits, or gold, or whatever it is actually called. I have no idea. Doesn't actually tell you what it is. Let's call it gold. We can only build a couple of things, very straightforward. We have belts, unlocked from the start, really nice. We have extractors, which is basically just something that will extract pretty much any base resource. And we have a research lab. Now, the research lab is very expensive, as you can see. And we're going to use this to import our resources and then basically get them to unlock new technology. We're going to need some extractors as well, and I'll just show you how easy it is to set up a nice little factory like this. The belt pops right out, and then we can just drag and drop and make a little belt like this. And look, now we have the first logs on a belt that will be transported into our research lab. And if we go into the technology tree, as you can see, it starts out very simple, but it becomes really complicated really fast, which is a good thing for this type of game. But let's start at the beginning. As you can see, our wood logs are now going towards our first science, which is the unlock of wood planks. This will also unlock a new building, which will then actually allow us to make said wood planks. With the wood planks unlocked, we can now build a workshop. It's only 10 gold, and we can actually place it right on top of this belt. And then if we click the workshop and press tab, we are actually able to select a recipe. Currently, we only have the one. And this is going to transform 15 wood logs into 15 wood planks per minute. It's really nice that it actually starts out with this already visible, so you don't have to guess how fast things are being produced. Thank you, Tectonica. But yeah, it's really straightforward. Now, as you can see, we are actually getting gold from wood planks. And as you can tell right now, as soon as the things are going to go in my research lab, I'm actually gaining some money from this. We're also unlocking the next item on our list, which is going to be the wood frame. Now, of course, we're actually getting gold from production, which means that there's no downside on scaling up. We currently only have a very tiny factory, but we can actually easily just delete everything. Now we have access to wood planks and make this a little bit more optimized. Now, before you start yelling at your screen at me for deleting the initial base, it's actually so easy in this game to upgrade everything you have, like I'm showing you right now, even while I'm talking. It's so easy and intuitive how to upgrade things that it doesn't feel like a chore in order to set something new up. As you can see, I just expanded the entire production line with another workshop. Of course, I'm building 2 extractors to 1 workshop just to have the perfect ratios going. And it's that easy to set something up. Also, there's no downside of expanding your production like this, even though we don't necessarily need these planks, because the planks are being turned into money. The resources are infinite, so there is no reason to not have the factory grow, which I think is a very good thing to have in a factory game. Okay, so I might have gone a little bit overboard with the initial wood plank production, but as you can see, we have a very steady inflow of money now, which is always a good thing. So let's go to the technology tree and let's see what we need to do in order to make wood frames. We actually need to transform some of these planks into wood frames, and we're going to do that again in the workshop. I really like how it actually tells you which building produces this, so you don't have to look around for, well, finding out whatever building is going to actually produce this new item. Okay, so let's build one of those workshops and let's open it up and check out the wood frame recipe. It's going to require 30 wood planks per minute, and if we compare that to the output of the wood plank production itself, we see it's 15 per minute. So actually we're going to need 2 workshops producing wood planks in order to supply all the wood planks that the one workshop making wood frames is going to require. So looking at our production facilities over here, it's actually really easy to upgrade that. It helps that I started in an organized fashion, as always. I just want to mention that you can actually just move buildings really easily. You can sell them without any reduction of money or anything like that. So just making ourselves a little bit more convenient in terms of spacing is extremely easy, and we can just expand our production like this. Now we can take out this area and then just implement some workshops in order to upgrade our production to the next tier. Now, of course, we could upgrade our entire facility manually, like I've done over here, but I actually want to show you something really awesome, because this game starts out with blueprints from the get-go. So, for example, we can say this is our root frame, 7.5 per minute. It also requires 4 extractors for wood in order to fully function. And there we go, we created our first blueprint. Now we can just say build. And well, we're going to need one of those over here. We're going to need one of those over here. And then one more over here. We actually don't need this bottom part, so we can just take that out. Then we can just do something like this in order to connect all of this up. And there you go, we expanded our production real easily. I can't get over the fact how smooth the UI and how intuitive building in this game is. And again, this is just the start of the game. It's really simple and straightforward so far, but this is going to be very useful expanding later on. Speaking of expansion, we now unlocked smelting, which actually allows us to build furnaces, and in that in turn will allow us to melt iron ingots and copper ingots. And as you can see, this is really where the technology tree opens up. There's a couple of more aesthetic things on the right-hand side. So, for example, trees. And there's other stuff like festive decorations, snowmans and stuff like that. The left-hand side of the tree is actually mostly about production and about belts and things like that. And then down the middle is where you will find your new buildings, your new items, and so on. Now, as you can see, we're already in the process of unlocking the extractor upgrade, which is really expensive, so go easy on that initially. But more importantly, what we want is to unlock metalworking. We're going to need some ingots of both types for that. And in the meanwhile, we can also use some logs to start unlocking some more of the decoration things, which is why actually I have this extractor over here, just a single one, just making logs and slowly unlocking that as we go. Okay, zooming out for a moment, I just realized that, like I said in the beginning, the iron and the copper is actually over here. So I should have been building downwards rather than upwards. But again, it's really easy to just move everything. We're going to put down some smelters and see where that takes us. There we go, I think this should cover our ingot production for the iron for now. Again, there's no reason not to tap every single resource, they're infinite anyway. And we need 4 of these extractors on the tier 1 at least in order to completely satisfy one furnace. And I'm probably producing a little bit more than I can actually handle here, but there's no such thing as too much production in this game. And you can see how nice the balancing is. Even though I'm playing relatively slow because I'm explaining the game as I go, I'm not drowning in money yet. And the main reason for that is that things actually start costing a little bit more as you go. So that kind of nicely balances itself out. The income production isn't huge either, but still. And again, I just deleted the entire road, built an entire road, moved the research lab down. It only took like 30 seconds in order to relocate my research hub and relocate my belting from here to there. That is how fast this game plays. Oh man, I don't know what it is about this game, but every time I see a resource node, I'm like, okay, I have to tap into every single one of them. Make sure we have that production going. So yeah, I think we also have the iron covered for now. That means we have quite a few things to unlock now. We can unlock the extractor upgrade, which means we can get even more resources running. In order to get the next tier, we're actually going to need only 1,000 metal frames. So if you were wondering if this game was going to stay at this scale, no, it's not. It's going to scale up quite a bit. However, we also unlocked metalworking, so that means we can now start making copper wire and iron gears. Both of those are going to be produced at a workshop once again. And let's see, in order to make copper wires, we're going to need 45 ingots per minute, and that's going to give us 30 per minute in terms of output. So that means if we look at these furnaces, these are producing 30 per minute. So actually we could have 3 furnaces producing enough for 2 of these workshops. So actually we have a almost perfect ratio right over here. What we need to do is build 4 workshops in order to get all the resources from these 6 furnaces. Now that would look something like this, but as you can see we have a problem because we actually need some of these resources to be split between these 2 workshops, and the default belts actually don't do that. So going into the technology tree, if we check out these advanced belts over here, not only do we get the underground belt, which is basically the way to bridge different belts. You don't get a bridge, but you get a tunnel. But we also get the belt splitter. However, in order to unlock this, we're going to need some iron gears. Now, the iron gear recipe is actually a little bit less annoying than the copper wire, so maybe I should have started with that, because this is actually only a 30 input and a 15 output, which is in a perfect ratio to one of these furnaces. So what I can actually do is copy this and just put it right there on the belt like so, and we can of course delete the extra belts we have over here, then build another belt like this. Et voila, we are now producing these iron gears. I really like, again, I keep saying this and it's the last time I'll say it, don't worry, I like how smooth everything is. And with all that production, we now have access to the advanced belt, so we can actually build the splitters. We have access to magnets, as well as a new building, the machine shop. And we have access to the workshop upgrade as well. In the meanwhile, the decorative tree is also unlocked. What do I need for this? Some stone, some iron gears, actually, for the gear statue, 2,000 of them. Jeez. We're going to need some random stone and coal as well, which should be easy enough to get. But first things first, let's actually optimize the production we had over here, because now we do actually have those belt splitters. Okay, remember when we only had a few things unlocked here? Well, yeah, we actually have the belt splitters over here as well. So as you can see, these split the things to 3 different places. So we should probably do that something like this. Then we are going to move these ones to here. And then we can have this going up and this going up, this and this. And now as you can see, this middle one is splitting its resources over these 2. So now these are getting 45 inputs per minute each. And now we have something that we once again can select and make a blueprint out of. And while we're raking in the cash, which is a really nice thing because now it doesn't feel like all of this production is going to waste, let's figure out the machines shop. So electromagnets, we're going to need 45 copper wire going in, 15 iron ingots. So this is actually the raw ingots, not the iron gears. That's interesting. So yeah, 45 of these. So how much are we producing? 30. So if the 3 of these would actually supply 2 of those. And then with 2 of these, we're going to need 30 ingots, which is just a single one of these, actually, I believe. Yeah, looks like it. We're also going to have to combine 2 different items, so I'm guessing that this is a logical place to set that up. Okay, so let me think about this for a moment. We're going to need the inputs from 3 of these, so we're actually producing a little bit more than we need. So if we do this like this, we have a splitter over here that's going to turn into there. We have another splitter, then we're actually going to have some excess. So if we put the belt like this and combine this with the output belt from the machine shop, we should now start producing some of these magnets, and then every surplus is not going to waste, but it's still going to go into our research lab. Does mean we can get rid of this belt. And this is also a perfect opportunity to demonstrate to you how the tunnel works, because we're going to need the tunnel in order to get the resources into these 2 slots over here. Okay, so I brought one of the gear belts from up here down here, so we can connect it up. Then we click this, and as you can see, we now have a limited range tunnel that we can build. But this will be more than enough. Now we actually need to build, that's the B that I was looking for, a splitter as well. And then don't want to mess these belts up, of course. So that is not going to work. Oh, I was rotating this one. That was not what I wanted to do. There we go. And then we can twist this. And this should now be working. Yep, we are now importing gears on both sides. And for those of you typing in the comments right now, it only took me like a minute to realize why this wasn't working. Because I didn't need the gears, I needed the actual iron ingots. So we are now, as you can see, producing electromagnets. And let's see what that is going to give us. So first of all, we have a speed upgrade for the belts unlocked right here. So that will make our belts 10% faster. The existing belts, so no replacing belts in this game. You can just upgrade everything you already have. We're actually going to need a ton of these iron gears because it looks like all of these actually require iron gears to unlock. So I think we're mass producing iron gears for a very long time. As you can see, we just needed 100 for this. We're going to need 1,000 for the next level. So we'll be working on that for a while. What else? We need nano wires and concrete for the underground belt upgrade, so that's going to take a while, I guess. We are already pretty close to unlocking metal frames. We're going to unlock plating and metal frames with that. It's probably a good thing, because if I remember correctly, we're going to need quite a bit of that for, what was it? This one over here, 1,000 for the next extractor upgrade. Okay. We're going to be able to unlock coal power if we can find ourselves some coal, and we have a furnace upgrade as well. What do we have on this side over here? Iron gears and logic circuits, and we are going to need that coal as well as stone for some of the decorative upgrades. Now we have some money to spend, so what we can actually do is find out ourselves a little bit of coal over here. Just build another research lab and some extractors. Extractors, there we go. Nothing fancy, just something like this maybe. Let's move this one a little bit down. And then by doing something simple like this, we can at least get the coal going. And we can do something very similar for the stone as well. And with that going, let's zoom out a little bit. And actually, I really like how it's really visible on the belts what you're making, even if you're all zoomed out. So it's really intuitive to see what's going on in the larger picture. Now, let's see, we have a lot of things on their way now. We did already unlock the metal frames. That is going to be made in our workshop and our machine shop. So let's check out those recipes. Okay, so let's see. The iron plating is actually being made from iron ingots, so that is pretty straightforward. We're going to be producing that at 20 per minute from a single workshop, and then that iron plating actually aligns really nicely with the machine shop that is going to require 20 of those per minute in order to make 5 metal frames per minute. We're also going to need some wood frames. So yeah, that's going to be interesting because now we get to combine some of the production over here with some of the production over here. Now remember, we're actually going to need a lot of those gears as well. So this might be a good opportunity to start upgrading some of our extractors, especially considering we have some money to spend. So there's different ways we could actually approach this, but what I like doing is the fact that we now have the extractors, the upgrade for the extractors unlocked like this. Means that I can actually go through the buildings like this and simply upgrade the entire production chain. And it actually costs quite a bit of money, honestly. But this does mean that by just simply going through everything and upgrading it all to tier 2 means that we actually increased our production with 50% now, and it's a very good sink for all that money that we're making now. But looking at this and fiddling around a little bit with the mechanics, my OCD is kicking in, and I just realized that we can make this look, I think, a lot neater than it looks right now. So let me fiddle around with that a little bit and show you what I mean. There you go. This is a lot cleaner than the previous layout. I reduced all the belts to a single belt, importing all the logs. It actually turns out that with the belt increase and the tier 2 extractors, we can fit about 15 extractors on a single belt in terms of the output of the logs. Check, double check. Yep, that should work out just fine. We have about 15 of these, each producing about 11 per minute, so that is about 160, 170 production, and you can actually check the belts themselves. They transport right now 165 items per minute, so it's not perfect. There's a little bit of overproduction here. It's not as bad as it makes it look right now. That's just because I was building it, but we should see that this belt slowly empties itself out. As you can see, we have a massive amount of wood planks being produced as well, and all of those are being turned into these nice little wood frames. So that brings us to the metal frames, because now all we need to do is bring in some plating, bring in some of these frames, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so cleaning up the iron production in a similar fashion, I couldn't actually stick all the extractors on a single belt, which actually coincidentally is not that bad. Actually, I forgot one over here. Can't have that, can we? It's actually not all that bad because we actually needed these 3 to supply this electromagnet production. However, here we're now making only plates, which does mean that we're not currently producing any more gears, which we'll probably have to fix soon anyway. But yeah, now we are producing both plates and frames, so now all we need to do is bring those 2 together and make ourselves some metal frames. And here we go, and that was actually not quite as straightforward as I might have seen, because what I actually need to do is, well, get multiple different resources into this machine shop like before, so this is where the tunnels come in. But because we're producing everything on a single belt, I also have to make sure that we're not having too many items pass these splitters, because of course the splitters are just going to be splitting things. At the same time, I also don't want any production to go to waste, so I do want the excess production to actually go on this belt. So what did I do? Actually, I didn't do anything special for the wood frames because I'm producing so many of those, so you can see they're backing up anyway. But I am actually only overproducing the plates a little bit. So what I did, I have added in a loop to the belt. I can actually get rid of this one now. So this loop is actually feeding back a little bit of the plates that pass the second point back into the system, and basically just to make sure it keeps recycling that, to make sure I'm not losing out too much production. I actually calculated that initially it shouldn't be too much of a problem if I basically take out this loop. It would look a little bit more neat. But again, I just want to make sure we're optimally producing the highest tier of items that we can, which is exactly what we're doing right now. Okay, so let's see what we unlocked for our efforts. Over here we have another speed upgrade for the belts, which actually comes out of the iron gears that we were overproducing in the meanwhile. We're on our way to get storage, which is interesting. We have unlocked silicon, so now we can make sand and silicon in the furnace, which is interesting as well. We're going to need that in order to unlock circuitry. We have coal power unlocked, which is going to be interesting because this is actually a new type of building that we can use to speed things up even further. We have the next tier of furnace upgrade as well. We're on our way to unlock several more things, but oh man, is this game going to scale up really fast from this point on. So the coal power plant is actually really cool and really expensive, as you can see. This is actually going to boost our production in a certain radius, as you can see on the thing. It's going to give us a 20% speed, so that's not too much, but it's also nothing that is insignificant. But we're going to need to supply it with coal in order to do so. So if we can basically cover the entire production area with power plants and make sure that we have coal going into them, we could boost our entire production chain by 20%. However, first things first. If at the beginning of this episode you were typing in the comments, well, it's too simplified to put everything into money, well, you are wrong, because although everything that we're building is being built by just buying it with money, we are going to need different items to make sure we unlock our research. So for example, we need a ton of metal frames in order to unlock the extractors. We're going to need more metal frames over here, but we're going to need iron gears for the speed upgrades. And then we're actually going to need some copper wire, iron plating, 2000 iron plating to unlock this. So basically we're going to need to make sure we're producing a little bit of everything. Well, not necessarily everything, but we are definitely going to need to be producing several different items at the same time. That said, we're only using a tiny little portion of the map so far, so there's nothing stopping us from just picking another spot on the map. For example, maybe over here we have some coal as well as iron, and then just making a secondary facility there to produce a certain type of item. Okay, I just realized you can actually select the items on the map and it will tell you exactly how many iron deposits you have over here, at least iron deposits in this case. This is super useful if you're trying to figure out how much resource you actually have here. You're trying to optimize your spreadsheets in order to make sure you're not under or overproducing something. I love that this is in here because I was initially manually counting all of these different nodes. You don't have to. Okay, so something like this should ensure we are going to get all the iron gears that we need. There is actually a limit of the amount of research labs that you can build, so you can't just spam these across the entire map and then do it the easy way. But I do think that making one of the research labs dedicated to iron gears makes sense because of the sheer amount that we're going to have to produce of these things. And while we're at it, might as well just use these new coal power plants that we have in order to speed things up. Now it's going to take a little while for the coal to get here, but once it does, we should have the production fired up and good to go. It was a very good way, by the way, to spend all my gold that was accumulating, because these power plants do not come cheap. So with that out of the way, let's start working towards circuitry. We are going to need some silicon for that, and in order to make silicon, we're going to need to extract stone, we're going to need to make that into sand, and then into silicon. We happen to have a nice amount of stone close by anyway, near our main research lab, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. As a side note, we also unlocked the storage unit, where you can store a single type of resource. Not entirely sure when you would use that. I mean, I guess you could use it to store your overproduction in case you need it somewhere down this technology tree, but considering you're producing infinite resources anyway, I'm not entirely sure if that's worth the effort. Maybe we'll find out later. Okay, so nothing too complicated here. The tier 2 workshops and furnaces kind of nicely match up when it comes to the recipe for the silicon. So all in all, not too complicated. So we should now see our silicon adding up really fast. And yeah, you can see that ticking in already. We actually did unlock the new upgrade for the machine shop, so let's make sure we get that going. What do we need for the next level? Computers. I actually don't know yet where we can unlock this, but it's probably somewhere down the road after circuitry. So let's check that out and see what we need to make those. Well, I figured why not just spend some money, since we now have the tier 2 machine shops, in order to upgrade the magnet production over here, and then actually run out of money. So once again, I'm really astonished by how balanced this game is, because I felt like I'm making a lot of money. As you can see, it's flowing in quite rapidly, but it's easily spent in the late game and the mid game as well. Alright, so while we're waiting for my money to recover from my spending spree there, let's figure out what we need for the logic circuit. So we're going to need copper wire and silicon in order to produce this. Now I do think that, let me double check, I don't think we're using the silicon for anything else in terms of unlocking here. Doesn't look like it. Oh, we do have new belt speed increases, so that's really nice. So we can start working on the next one. Yeah, so I think we're pretty safe in using the facility that we have over here to get some of that silicon going, but then we are going to need to add some copper wire into that. We could deconstruct a part of the electromagnet production over here. However, I have a feeling that we're going to need it for something else, maybe for the computers over here, for example. Let's see, can we see what we need for that? No, we can't, because that would be way too easy. Well, we need to make heat sinks over here, and I have a feeling that we're going to need those magnets for that as well. So, yeah, I'd rather not take that down, which does mean that we're actually going to need to bring in maybe some copper wire from over here. And that sounds like the perfect project for the next episode. If you can't tell, I am super duper enjoying this game. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it has been all the Starfield playing that kind of gave me some withdrawal symptoms from playing factory games. I don't know, but it's actually really enjoying to play this particular one. Don't forget, you can actually also share your blueprints. So if you make a nice design, you can actually just publish it and have other people play with it as well. And for the more competitive people among you, if you go to the menu, you can actually check out your production stats, and there is actually a time to first item included as well. So basically this is telling you how long it took you to get to a certain item. I'm probably the slowest person on the planet so far, so I highly encourage you to try to beat my times that are on the screen right now. I also highly encourage you to check out the next episode that will be coming tomorrow, because, well, what's more fun than building the factory together? If you're still here, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.